Today, this is Multi-Brony Brony. Welcome to my first-ish fanfiction reading. Today, I'm going to be reading My Little Aperature Science. Testing is Magic. This is by Awesome Sauce 4. It's a crossover between Portal and My Little Pony, in case you didn't know that it was a Portal reference. So yeah, here we go. Josh walked to his office and logged on to his computer. He was tall, lanky, freckled scientist, and he worked here at Aperature on the most amazing things. Turrets with infinite bullet capacity, robots that could think and act better than the humans who made them, and most importantly, the genetic life form and disk operating system, or as she was more commonly known, GLaDOS. He checked his email and was surprised to see one pop up from a coworker of his, Henry. He opened it. "Come to the new department immediately. We need you for the test today." Josh raised an eyebrow. Test? Aperature scientists didn't test. That's what test subjects were for. He sighed and headed over to the new section of Aperature, which would have been a long walk were it not for the labyrinth of elevators that connected the massive place. He stepped into an office that said, "Warning! Test undergoing. Proceed with caution." Some Zen aliens were in cages, and he hurriedly stepped out. Nice. Half-Life 2 reference. "Whoops, this must be the wrong room. Sorry," he said. He was still getting used to the place. "Don't worry. The one you're looking for is around the corner," said a scientist studying the creatures. "Thanks," Josh replied. He left, still slightly embarrassed at his mistake. He walked down the hall and turned the corner, and sure enough, there was a sign that said, "Dimensional testing undergoing. Do not disturb," on a door. That must be me, he thought. He entered the door and was surprised to see at least 30 people waiting for him. Josh grinned sheepishly. "Sorry I'm late," he said. "What are we doing?" he asked. "Well," Henry answered, "we just dug up a message box from our old CEO, Cave Johnson." Josh was flabbergasted. "Cave Johnson? As in the Cave Johnson?" Everyone nodded. "And it's addressed to you," Henry finished. If it was possible, Josh's jaw would have hit the bottom of the complex, approximately 36,000 feet down. "But how? I just got here," he said. Henry shrugged and handed him the box. It said in faded letters, "To Josh Stevenson, year 2011. Anyone else? Do not open. I mean it. Cave Johnson, CEO." Josh looked up. Several people were impatiently waiting for him to open it. He tried, but it wouldn't budge. They hacked at it with a crowbar, tried to melt it with thermal discouragement beam, until Josh just gave up in frustration and yelled at it, "Open!" To his surprise, it actually opened. And he was met with a small sheaf of papers. He picked them up gingerly, as they felt like they could disintegrate at any moment. "Dear Josh," he read aloud, "this is your CEO, Cave, as you probably know from the label. Anyway, this message is to help you with the one project that I never finished. In the future, there will be a TV show. It will be in Keller." Several of the scientists were chuckling. "This show, for whatever reason, is called My Little Pony Friendship is Magic." Everyone stopped chuckling and started staring. "What? That's what he says right there." He pointed to the text. "Oh, wait. Whatever." Henry was nodding like he knew something. "Continue reading," he suggested. Right, Josh replied, and continued. "A being from this universe made accidental contact with us, and the message traveled back in time. I don't know the details, but the lab boys from our time have included a full-page report on how this works. What you are to do is to re-establish contact with this universe and find out how it managed to contact us, and why. We choose you for this mission because the message in question very specifically included your name, along with the exact time you should read this, which is October 26, 2011, at 9:21 a.m. Ooh, that's interesting. Some of the scientists checked the clock, and this was indeed correct. Furthermore, Josh continued to read, we are assuming string theory has been proven at this point. Take that, Black Mesa. Everyone had a good laugh at that. So plans for dimensional transport are included. So anyone who's hearing this and is an engineer, that's your job. 2 engineers were present, and they shifted uncomfortably at this. So one final thing, which is possibly the most important. The message specifies that whoever wants you in this universe, they want you armed. So get the best handheld technology we have at this point and get moving. Cave Johnson, we're done here. Josh finished. Everyone looked at each other. Well, what are we waiting for? Henry asked, being the boss of the group. You heard the dead guy. Get moving! Josh noticed something at the bottom of the paper. And you, Henry, I heard that. He read and laughed. Henry just stood there, feeling highly uncomfortable. Oh, snap, Henry. You just got served by a dead guy, Josh chuckled. After some weeks of preparation, the dimensional transport was operational. Josh was in a hermetically sealed chamber, armed with the Aperature Science extra-dimensional backpack, which in turn was stocked with a few of just about every testing element Aperature had, and a few guns and grenades, just in case. It also had deployed turrets and rocket sentries, as well as camping supplies and a radio that theoretically would work between the 2 dimensions, and a laptop. What's the laptop for again? Josh said as he was digging through the backpack of endless contents. It's if you get bored. Henry spoke over in an intercom. They were ready to start. Any moment now, the massive gateway portal would open. Josh tensed himself in anticipation. The portal glowed with a bright light, but something was wrong. Josh, the portal's unstable. Get out of there! Henry yelled. Oh, this is like Half-Life. Henry yelled over the intercom. A great drop in pressure ensued, and Josh was quickly sucked into the portal and gone from the universe. The Aperature Science emergency short-out system, 1 second too late, shut down the portal. We're still here, Henry began. And Josh is not. An old weary voice finished. It was Doug Ratman, and he had just witnessed the beginning of Josh's adventure, which in return could influence their own. So, that's chapter 1. This is interesting so far. Josh appeared 50 feet above the ground and quickly prepared himself for a landing. Luckily, he had his long fall boots on, and he landed with a soft thump. Well, that was easy, he thought. He pulled out the Aperature Science handheld dual portal device in case he ran into something. Unfortunately, the same monitor that Henry had spoken to him through moments earlier had appeared above him and whacked him on the head. What the? Josh thought as he sank into unconsciousness. His backpack, sensing a drastic slowdown in its user's vital functions, began beeping hurriedly in an attempt to attract passerby. However, they were in the middle of a forest, and the backpack was about to give up in annoyance when it heard a step. It began beeping louder than ever, and was greeted with the strangest sight. Ooh. Fluttershy didn't normally go into the ever-free forest, but she had a baby snake that missed its mother, and she had agreed to drop it off. So now she was heading back from the forest when she heard a beeping below her. Beeping? I don't know any animal that beeps, Fluttershy wondered aloud. She went to investigate and was greeted with the strangest sight she had ever seen. An animal that she had never seen was lying face down on the ground, and its backpack was beeping? She decided to help it, as the creature didn't look to be in a very good shape. Fluttershy desperately tried to move the huge thing, but she wasn't nearly strong enough. She turned around, lifted her wings, and sped off for help. Rainbow Dash was chillaxing at her house when Fluttershy burst in, faster than Rainbow had ever seen Fluttershy fly before. Rainbow, there's a big creature in the forest, and it needs our help. That is, if you'd like to. she finished. Rainbow grinned and nodded. "Let's do this," she said, rushing out the front door. "But I didn't tell you where," Fluttershy began and stopped. She flew right out the door to catch up to Rainbow. "I wonder if Twilight will be interested in this," Fluttershy thought aloud. Twilight, at the moment, was reading. It was an index of mythical creatures, and she liked to read about these and imagine what they would be like if they were real. Homing pigeon? Human? Human, she read aloud. She hadn't heard of this one. Humans are tall creatures with their defining feature being that they walk on only 2 legs, she read aloud. They are highly intelligent and creative, but have no magical powers. Huh, she finished. Weird. Spike ran in and began speaking quickly. "Twilight, Fluttershy wants you to go to the Everfree Forest. There's a weird 2-legged creature and she can't move." He huffed. I failed at speed reading that. Twilight was shocked. 2-legged? Could this be the legendary human she had just read about? She used a teleporting spell and was immediately whisked away. Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy, both grunting with exertion, were trying to drag the creature without much luck. Twilight appeared in a flash and nearly lifted it up with levitation. "Well, that takes a load off her shoulders," laughed Rainbow Dash, stretching. "I'll take it back to your cottage, Fluttershy," Twilight said. "Oh, thanks," Fluttershy beamed. "I wonder what this thing is, though." Twilight got a good look at its face. It seemed very calm, and it was wearing clothes. The clothes were very well made, so this human must have known a good seamstress, Twilight decided. A black and white, very sleek, tube-shaped thing with 3 claws on it was clutched tightly in his hand, and Twilight used her magic to pry it loose. "I wonder what this thing does," Twilight thought aloud. "Maybe Princess Celestia will know. I'll have to file a letter to her as soon as possible." Josh felt relaxed. He was lying in a bed, and he could hear faint voices outside. His hand felt light and empty for some reason. Was he holding something? "The portal device!" Josh yelled in his mind, jolting himself awake. He quickly took in his surroundings. He was in a small, cozy yellow room, laying on a bed that was much too small for him. He didn't see the portal gun anywhere, but his backpack was on the table next to him. He grabbed it and quickly searched its contents. Oh man, this is bad," he thought. He slung his backpack over his shoulders, and when he was about to leave, when a bold voice said, "Where do you think you're going, mister?" Josh looked everywhere for the source of the voice and finally found it. A cyan Pegasus with a rainbow mane. Josh attempted to answer, but for some reason he couldn't. He smiled apologetically at the thing and quickly ran out the door. Where was he anyway? He had a homing beacon to the portal gun and strapped on his long fall boots when he was out of sight of the front door. Then he took out 2 small canisters with an orange liquid sloshing around inside. These were new add-on to the long fall boots, and they would allow him to run as if on propulsion gel. He sped off, expecting to see a blur. To his surprise, he found the pony from earlier keeping up with him by flying, so he increased his speed. So did the pony. They zipped towards Ponyville. Rainbow, meanwhile, was easily keeping up with the human. She looked in his eyes and saw a fearful mix of confusion, determination, and fear. She flew faster and far outpaced the human. Rainbow arrived in Ponyville and gathered other ponies around her. "A creature is coming down the road really fast, but it's injured and needs treatment. Can we set up a roadblock?" Every pony nodded and quickly got to work. However, Josh was not moving at all. He had anticipated that he would need to be getting past these ponies, so he had strapped on 2 other gel canisters, Repulsion and the latest, Sticky Gel, a purple gel which allowed him to walk on walls and ceilings. The 4th gel. He had just finished attaching the wireless buttons that controlled the flow of each to his fingers and sped off. The roadblock was almost finished by the time the creature, a human, according to Twilight Sparkle, arrived on the scene. "Here it comes!" Rainbow Dash yelled, and most of the ponies ran inside their homes, fearful to see this new creature. Josh saw the concrete roadblock up ahead and grimly smiled. That was what they came up with? They didn't know who they were dealing with. He pressed the blue button on his index finger and immediately slowed down, seconds before hitting the wall. He jumped straight over, which left Rainbow Dash and every pony else jaw-dropping. I'd love to see this in an episode, like, just, and then it's like, the pacing, it fits. He pressed the orange button on his thumb and continued his desperate journey to the portal gun. He knew that if he didn't, a nuclear explosion would result due to the gun recognizing it had been taken away from its owner. He saw the cyan pony speed up behind him. He had to admire its persistence. Rarity, meanwhile, was suing when she had heard the sound equivalent to a jet plane going by. She went outside, expecting to see Rainbow Dash, but instead was hit by a tall, white, lab coat-wearing thing. "That coat is definitely not in season," she remarked, then screamed. Josh looked down and noticed that he had accidentally picked up a white pony and turned off the boots. He gently sat her down, an apologetic look on his face. Then he pressed a button on his thumb and sped off again, leaving Rarity to wonder what in Equestria had just happened. She watched the thing escape, leaving her alone and several miles from her home. So that's chapter 2, and I think I'm going to stop it there. Yeah. And this is looking pretty cool. I thought it was all ponies at the beginning, but then it turns out, no. Yeah, anyways, that was cool.